I've been up to the DUP museum.
I'm sorry, that's fine.
I'm a DOC at the church.
So for those of you streaming, I know that you get to hear this. We're a little bit delayed when it comes to what's happening here and then when it's sent to you by stream. But once you get this message, please do not be shy and let me know, how is the sound? I want to make sure that the sound is good for you, not just for the people in person. It's already good for the in-person, for sure. So I need you to write in the comments, say, what do you feel about the sound? Yeah? Yeah? Because that's what determines when we get started, too. So thank you. Please tell me, how is this sound? La, 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 la. Okay. So we do have someone saying it sounds good. All right. Good, good, good.
We're here.
I definitely.
This is the song in point here. Humming, if you like.
Yeah, like maybe
Humming scenes.
Huntsman we sing.
I
I like that. Yeah.
Give you something to support you.
Okay. Yeah, well, whatever you do, just feel free. Just do it. You want to yell?
Okay.
Water's not just for afterwards, right?
The water's now, yeah, the other stuff is later. Yeah, yeah. All right, so I did see a message that our sound is good. That is super helpful, super awesome. All right, we're going to be starting really soon. And we know some people are going to join us too. There's the traffic, but you are at home, so you don't really have traffic. So good. Welcome. Congratulations. You safely made it to your screen. Okay. All right, so that is going. All right.
So maybe they will.
First house is like one continuous road. One house. You turn, but I just keep coming. Luckily, there's McDonald's on the way back.
That's very fortunate. Very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I know we still have people trickling in right here, but we want to get started. We want to, have a big hurrah to the people who came on time. And for those who are on the stream right now, hey, congratulations, you're on time too. All right. Are we excited, everybody? Woo! This is the 93rd Story Crossroads house concert. How crazy is that? It jumps around with different homes. This home tends to be featured a lot, but there's also many other homes that we are so delightful for those who have hosted and who make it possible. This is an amazing time for the arts because if nothing else, we need the arts more than ever. And some of you might be going, well, wait a minute, there's been a lot of cuts to the arts and humanities. Well, that just means it is the most fantastic time for the arts ever, because very soon I think it'll be figured out of why it's so important to have that. So just keep that in mind, because not just Story Crossroads, but all arts organizations, all humanities organizations, all of them are adjusting and trying to figure some things out. And so please, if you haven't donated already, please do storycrossroads.org/donate. For those streaming, there is something you can even scan. Look how fancy we are. And we also have it possible because we're in the middle of our mid-year campaign, especially as a result of a lot of that federal funding cuts. Just so you are aware, for Story Crossroads, the year of 2025, there were suddenly 3 grants that just don't exist that we get every year, and that affects us like $15,000. So that's just an example of what we're experiencing. I saw Spy Hawk, who does a lot of youth and filming, very well known in Utah, and they suddenly didn't have a grant that they were supposed to get that was $25,000. So this is just normal. But we're gonna celebrate, we know how important it is, you're here and you know it's important. For those streaming, guess what? You can still applaud, I expect you. If you're gonna be like those quiet people, fine, you can choose that. But I think it's more fun when you put emojis and maybe little comments like, hurrah, brava, you know, those things. Or longer, right? So, we're gonna practice. So streamers, this is your chance to use emojis, and here we can use our voices and our applause. Ready, and? Now, we love Karla Huntsman. She is an amazing storyteller. She's an amazing human being. She has been in the art of storytelling for a long time, and she has delved into the theater side. She's delved in the storytelling side. She's brought in music, or sometimes she hums or plays, who knows? She just knows her stuff. And as suddenly Karla's reminded me too, now those streaming, you don't really have to do this, but it could be done. Those who are in person, you may want to take your devices, I'm going to double check mine too, and make sure it's on silent, because once we're here, and we're here with Karla, we want to be present. Are we ready to be present? Yes! Round of applause to Karla Huntsman!
Thanks so much, Rachel. I am thrilled to be able to tell you the story of Drusilla Doris Hendricks tonight. As I said in a trailer for this program, I discovered her life story at a time of my life that was very, very difficult. And reading her life story gave me a new paradigm, a new perspective, and it gave me strength to do what I needed to do. And still, her story today gives me strength with all of the challenges, of life. And I hope that her story does that for you today too. This story of Drusilla's is her particular faith journey, but I hope that you will universalize it and filter it through your own challenges and through your own belief systems. This story is true. Much of the narrative, in fact, most of the narrative is exactly as she wrote it, word for word. Another reason why we need to write our stories so that other people can read them after we're gone. I was born in 1810 in Tennessee, the youngest of 10 children. Around our dinner table at night, we talked of many things, much of which was religion. This was a time of great religious revival in the United States. Itinerant preachers would come from various parts of the country, set up meetings, and try to convince us to their particular religions. A preacher in one meeting would say, "Repent, ye sinners, for the eye of the Lord is upon you." And another one would say, "Repent, or be burned in the fiery furnace of hell." When I would go to these revivalist meetings with my father, I would say, "Why are these men arguing so much with each other?" "Well, they just believe different things." "Am I a sinner? Will I be burned in the fiery furnace of hell?" Drusilla. And another thing, why do they say that God doesn't talk to us anymore? He talks to me. Drusilla, I think you read the scriptures too much. I loved the scriptures. I could read them for hours. I read them so much that I could recite pages without looking at the book. My sisters teased me unrelentingly and called me Mama's little Christian. But I had questions, and I wanted answers. Some of the answers to my questions started to come in the spring of 1820 when I was 10 years old. I was sent on an errand to 3 or 4 of my father's family who were ill. There was a stream to cross, so I took off my shoes and socks and went in The wind was blowing, the freezing water hurt my feet. I did my errands, but in the morning, I was taken with a severe pain in my side and a burning fever. My condition worsened so much that they thought I would not live. The doctor said, "There's nothing further I can do." I couldn't move myself. I couldn't roll over. I couldn't lift myself up. They had to actually roll me over in a sheet. One night, my mother came into the room. The pain was so severe that I said to her, "Mother, please lift me up." As she did so, light seemed to fill the room. Many scriptures came into my mind. "For ye shall go out with joy and be brought forth with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth before you into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands." My pain was gone. I felt light as a feather. For the next 7 years, I continued to read and study. When I would read John and Revelations, I would ask my father so many questions that he finally said, "Drusilla, we have no business with these things." I knew by that he could not answer my questions. Also, at the same time, I was becoming acquainted with a very handsome boy who lived not far from us, James Hendricks. We were married in 1827. I was 17 years old. Our first child was born 2 years later, Elizabeth, 2 years later. And I found that motherhood was not an easy thing for me. Elizabeth would wake up in the middle of the night. "James, wake up. Elizabeth is crying. Again." "Well, you fed her?" "Yes." "You changed her?" "Yes." "Well, give her to me." I would give her to James, and she would immediately stop crying. I did not understand that. So our second child was born 2 years later, William Doris, and our third 2 years after William Doris, our Catherine. By then I had learned to manage a bit better. I had learned that it is no small thing to be a mother. About this same time, the Mormon elders came to our area. James' brother Samuel had heard them preach in another settlement, and he wanted me and James to go and hear them because I had read the scripture so much. He thought I could catch them in their errors, and he wanted to prove them wrong. So we started off, went to the meeting. As the elder was speaking, Samuel was so angry. He said, "Of all the foolishness, wickedness, unbelievable." He was totally angry. But I believed. When we got home, I asked James, "Might I be baptized?" "Well, I don't want to take the agency of anyone. Do as you please." I was never so happy in all my life. But that day, James went out among the neighbors, and when he came back, he was filled with all kinds of objections. "Drusilla, I've been reconsidering here. We don't really know these Mormons. I heard that old Joe was a gold digger, and he just made up this story about these gold plates to get money for his family." We went to another meeting, and James was more satisfied with their answers, but then he would go out among the neighbors and hear every slander told against this people. Then he would go speak to the elders again, then to the neighbors, then to the elders, then to the neighbors. For a month, whenever he heard anyone defame the Mormons, he would defend them. Whenever he heard anyone defend the Mormons, he would defame them. One day there was a meeting, a baptism, and I was going. James asked if he should go along. I said, "Do as you please. I don't want to take the agency of anyone." So we went. On the way, his nose started to bleed. I knew it was the condition of his mind which caused his nose to bleed, and I was glad to see it. I prayed that it might be for the good. I went on ahead and thought he'd started back, but he came up while the elder was speaking and took a seat beside me. I watched him, and the tears fell like rain from his eyes. When Samuel found out that we were going to be baptized, he was furious. If you allow yourself to be baptized into that abomination of a church, I will get 200 men. We'll tie you and those others up. We'll give you 200 lashes each. We'll see if you'll stand that for the sake of Christ. But they did not come. We were baptized the next evening according to the pattern laid down by our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I rose to walk in newness of life. I shall never forget how I felt. That fear of death and hell was all gone from me, and I was a new creature. That night my dreams were panoramic visions of the ancient saints, their persecutions, being thrown into prison or into the fiery furnace, wandering in sheep and goat skins. Was it a foreshadowing? If we should walk down stormy paths, if we were killed for the testimony we had received, I would gladly. I had made up my mind to serve God. The people in the church that we had been in acted as if we had committed the unpardonable sin. That was difficult to bear. But the thing that hurt the most was that we were rejected by most of my brothers and sisters. One day James was going right by my sister Lavinia's door in business. Before the baptism, we had never left one another without tears at the party. I jumped on the horse behind James. We went to her house. She opened the door. What in the name of God and our parents and everything else have you done? What do you mean? Going after the Mormons and being baptized by them. Do you have any idea who these people are? What they believe? I do. Oh, you do. Gifts of tongues, healings, revelation in our day. I'd as soon you joined a band of harlots as these devil worshippers. They are not devil worshippers. With them I have found answers to some questions I've had since I was a girl. You have found deceit. As long as you continue with this deceptiveness, you nor your children are welcome in this house. And so it was. We were not welcome. Our fourth child was born in 1836, our Rebecca. One night James was sitting on a porch when a great volley of rocks was hurled at his head. Whoever they were threw the stones in the dark and then ran. In the morning, everything stood upside down, the pig troughs upside down, the wagon wheel with the tongue sticking straight in the air. Everything was in disorder. We were not welcome anywhere. So in 1836, we decided that we would move, go join the little band of Mormons in Missouri. We sold our land and began our journey. At one point in the journey, we came to a river. The fish in the river were so plentiful that the surface of the water was covered. They were so large that the men thought it best to shoot them. The men had fine success until the whole camp had a full supply, and then the guns would simply not go off when pointed at those fish. It was like manna from heaven. We had enough, and there would be no more. We went on ahead to the Oka River. The ferrymen refused to take us across the river because the wind was blowing so fiercely, the waves were rolling. I'd always been frightened by the wind and the waves and reached for the snuff I was in the habit of using. I knew this was a disgusting habit. James wished dearly that I would discontinue its use. Brother Joseph had had a revelation that such things were not good for the body and spirit. I decided I would try the virtue of the Lord. Dear Father, I pray that you will remove this desire of snuff from me. If you do this, I will take this as proof that you did cause that revelation to be written. Amen. It was 4 days later that I realized I had no more desire for that snuff. It was a miracle. We moved on to Clay County, where we bought 50 acres of land. There was a house there that I could use. There were 6 families in the settlement. So I began setting up my beds, putting things away, when James' father came from Independence. He wanted us to come for a visit right then. So I left what I was doing. We went to Independence, but we didn't stay long. The mobs were gathering against the Mormons. It was not safe for us to be there. When we got back to our place, there was a crowd of men surrounding our house. One of the men said, "We want to speak to the man who purchased this land." James said, "I purchased this land. I am the owner. We want the land back." "But I have purchased this land legally. I have documents. I have paid for this land." "Well, if we would have known who was buying it, we wouldn't have sold it." And they did take our land. We moved on to Caldwell County. There was little time to prepare for winter, but there was some hay on the property that we bought, so we stacked it. We got about 12 tons stacked. We were so pleased with our labors. One evening we were looking out and saw red, fiery flames on the prairie. It was coming directly towards those 12 stacks of hay. We did whatever we could. We tried, but the fire reached the stacks and burned them up. The house was filled with cinders, but we saved it. We didn't know what to do. Finally, we found a man who had raised corn about a mile away, who was willing to sell us 6 acres of it. So we gathered the corn, cribbed it, and we made it through the winter. And the next winter, and the next winter. For 3 years, we had peace. In 1838, our 5th child was born. We named him Joseph. The 1st of August, 1838, trouble began over the elections. Those men, those Mormons, are allowing us not to govern our own land. We must ensure that Peniston is elected. I think me and the boys could think of something. As was anticipated, an attack did occur, and tensions escalated between the Mormons and the mobsters. Our men had to be ready at the sound of the bass drum to protect the outlying homesteads. Saints were being tied to trees and fearfully whipped with hickory withes, some of them horribly mangled by the mobs. Livestock was driven off. Houses were burned. The prairies were black with smoke. Brother Joseph and Hiram came to our back door. "The mobsters are burning the prairies and the grass. I'd get in your vegetables if you can." James said, "We better make the cabbage into kraut. Come with me to get a stone to weight it down." I walked behind James and watched his form, for he always stood so erect and tall. The thought came to me that I might never see him so erect and tall again. We worked all through the evening, finally went to bed. We were in bed just shortly when there was a knock on the door. "Quick, come. The mob is at Crooked River. They have 2 men of ours as prisoners, and they are burning everything in sight. Come." James put on his overcoat and boots. I handed him his rifle. "Don't get shot." And he was gone. I couldn't sleep. I paced the floor. Early in the morning, when I looked out the window, I saw Brother Snyder coming slowly to our house. When he came to the door, he said, Sister Hendricks, I think you better come with me. I got on the back of his horse. We rode the 4 miles to Sister Metcalf's. There he was, lying on a cot. He could not move his arms, legs. I rubbed his arms, his legs, his feet. He had no feeling in any part of his body. He had been shot in the neck. He was dead from the neck down. I cannot begin to express the feelings I felt, for that would be impossible. The brethren said we could not take him home because the mobs would shoot him on sight. So we waited. 5 days later, at Hahn's Mill, the mobs would put their rifles through the wide log slats of the blacksmith's shop and slaughter 17 of our men and boys, wounding many others, ravishing our women. They fired 1,600 shots into the blacksmith shop, and the saints were forced to surrender. We took James home, loaded him up in a wagon. The saints were moving as fast as they could, wanting to get to the west, away. We did not know how we could go until the brethren said we should not be left behind. So I sold what little I could, bought 2 yoke of cattle, was preparing for the journey. The enemies we had were still at hand, even though we were preparing to leave. One night I was sitting with my children. Elizabeth was 10, William was 8, Catherine was 6, Rebecca was 3, and the baby was 6 months. All of a sudden we heard the dog barking as if it had gone mad. And there was a loud banging on the door. "Open up this door!" "What do you want?" "Open up this door, we'll break it down." Catherine, take the baby. I went and sat directly in front of James, who was lying on the cot. Elizabeth, open the door. A group of men came in, burst into the room. They had false beards on their faces so we wouldn't recognize them. One of the men looked at me and said, "Get up." "I won't." I said, "Get up." "I won't." Then he came directly towards me and James, and he tried to pick up James' arms and legs with his rifle. What's the matter with him? He was shot in the neck. "Where's Winchester?" "I don't know." "Who else is here?" "Just my children." Then he took that rifle and he pointed it directly at James' heart. James just looked at him. He was so pale, so weak. The man finally said, "He'll die anyway." And then the men swarmed the house with their rifles, their knives, their guns. They went upstairs, they went out in the back. My children were like a flock of chickens with a hawk circling overhead. And then they left. And finally we were able to move. We got as far as Quincy. We got ourselves into a room that was partly above ground and partly underground. The room was very close with damp and fetid air, and James took sick. He broke out in sores all over his body so that you could not put a pinpoint on him without putting it on the sore from the top of his head to the soles of his feet. I must have lifted him 50 times a day. In 2 weeks, we had neither bread nor meat. I had 1 saucer of cornmeal and 1 teaspoon of sugar. I made mush of the meal and gave it to the children, and I washed and cleaned the house. If I die, I will die clean. As I was finishing the porch, I seemed to have heard a voice. "Drusilla, hold on, for the Lord will provide." Along in the afternoon, Brother Allred came to our home. He had over his shoulders 1 bag of meal. "Sister Hendricks, do you think you could use a bag of meal?" "I could, Brother Allred, I could." We lived on the meal for another 2 weeks, but then we were in need again. This time I said if the Lord helped us, I would think he owned us for his children. I washed and cleaned as before, and that same voice came to me again. Drusilla, hold on, for the Lord will provide. That afternoon, Brother Williams came to our home with 2 bags of meal. Sister Hendricks, do you think you could use a couple bags of meal? I surely could. He said that he had been out working with his crops that morning, and a thought came to him, Brother Hendricks' family is suffering, and he came immediately to help us. Finally, we were able to make it to Nauvoo. The brethren threw us together a log house, and Sister Lewis and I chinked and plastered it ourselves, thus showing that necessity is the mother of invention. James, by this time, could begin to turn on his elbows and begin to take things in one hand. But it couldn't work, so I had to make a living. I began taking in sewings, washings, mostly washings, because I could make the most of that. I boarded carpenters and masons for the temple. I bought flour and sold it, grew vegetables and traded them, made root beer and gingerbread to take out on market days, and I made mittens. And mittens, and I dreamed of mittens. So many dozens of mittens. But it still was not enough. One day I prayed, Father, you know our situation and you know what has brought us to it. I am willing to do all I can to make my family comfortable. So if you have anything in store for us, please open up the way. For I have done all I can. The next afternoon, a man came to our home, Mr. Shaw. He wanted to talk to James. Mr. Hendricks, you don't know me, but I know your father and your brothers, and I know they are good, honest men. So I have a load of pork at the gate, and I've come to sell it to you. I have no money to buy it. Well, I have come to give it to you for credit for a time. Oh, we will not buy it on credit. And the man left. I went to pray. Father, if this is an answer to my prayer, please hedge up his way so that he cannot sell a pound of pork and bring him back to us. The next day, the man returned. Mr. Hendricks, you must take my pork, for I've been all over this town and I cannot sell a pound of it. I asked Mr. Shaw to stay outside for a moment. James, if this is an answer for a prayer and you hedge up the way for us getting this pork, the sin be on your head and not upon mine. We took the pork. For 6 years, we lived with the sewings and the washings and the root beer and the gingerbread and the boarding carpenters and men. But in time, we were in need again. We were living on a half a bushel a meal, and our clothing, we were desperate for clothing and other supplies. I took a notion to go to St. Louis to get work. Father, you know I need to go to St. Louis. You know the boat's going to come up the river in 2 days. You know I don't have any money to take me there, so if you wanted me to go to St. Louis, we need some help. Amen. 18 months earlier, a man had boarded at our place and he had left without paying us for his rent. Here he was on my doorstep. Oh, Mrs. Hendricks, I apologize for leaving without paying you for my rent and for the mittens. We had enough to go. I took Catherine with me. We went to St. Louis, we got jobs, we worked for 2 months, we sent home provisions, and we had enough. The day before we were to come home, I had a restlessness, a sense of dread so great. I prayed the Lord to take those feelings from me. We started off for home June 28th. We got out about 6 miles and met another boat. The boatsman told us that the prophet had been killed. When we returned home, everything was in mourning. Nobody knew what to do. Sidney Rigdon called a meeting to present his claims to the presidency of the church. After he spoke, Brother Brigham stood up. I was startled and looked up to see if it was not Brother Joseph, for surely these were his gestures and his voice. I was not the only one to see it. It confirmed to our hearts that the Lord had called Brother Brigham to lead us. Under his direction, we decided to move again, this time to the west, a place of our own, a place where bigotry, intolerance, and oppression would be no more. We started in 1846. We had hoped to get to the Great Basin before winter, but we were stopped by the harsh winter storms. At our winter quarters, the government came after us and called for 500 of our best men to go and fight for the United States Army. They said this would prove our loyalty to the government. Loyalty. After driving us from our homes in Missouri and Illinois 3 times, breaking 3 treaties from us, dislocating us so many times, killing our children and our fathers, killing our prophet and patriarch, we must go in the dead of winter, no matter our sufferings. We must go or be exterminated. A legal order to be shot on sight by Governor Boggs. Loyalty. William, who was 16, was all I had to depend on. Joseph, 9 years of age, my girl, sickly. Who would chop the wood? Who would drive the team? Who would get James in and out of the wagon? And what would happen to William if he went? William wanted to go. He begged, pleaded, please let me go with the battalion. And the sisters in the camp thought it was a great honor. And they would say, is William going with the battalion? No, he is not. But in the quiet of the night, I heard this voice, Drusilla, have I not been with you with all your trials? Yes, you have. Drusilla, have I not provided for all your needs? Yes, you have. Drusilla, are you afraid to trust in the God of Israel? This is different. This is William. I had given one man to the slaughter. I would not give another. The day the battalion was to leave, I watched William walk through the tall, heavy grass, wet with dew. He was going to feed the cows. I went to my wagon to get flour for breakfast, and I heard that voice. Drusilla, do you not want the greatest glory? Yes, I do. Well, how can you get it? Without making the greatest sacrifice. Let your son go. It is too late. They are set to march this morning. A bugle began to blow. Turn out, men! Turn out! We still lack some men for the battalion. William was just returning from feeding the cows. He looked me full in the face. I took a photograph of him in my mind, for I had no photograph of him. If I never see you till the morning of the resurrection, I shall know you are my child. I gathered some things, gave them to William, and he was gone. I cannot begin to tell the hardships we endured by his going. We were then at Council Bluffs. There was not a wagon in the whole camp but what had sickness in it. Crossing the plains, we choked under clouds of constant dust. Babies were born with no shelter or comfort. Many died along the way and were buried by the roadside. Our feet were weary, and our clothes were rags, with the miles and miles of prairie crossed. 15 months of almost unendurable hardship. The people in Missouri and Illinois thought we would starve and come to naught. But we did not. We reached the valley October 4th, 1847. A few nights later, I dreamed that I saw the Salt Lake Temple, and it was just where it now is, but was finished. The walls towered so high and were far superior than the Nauvoo Temple that it could not be compared. Brother Joseph stood on the banisters. From each side came 2 white doves, which came down to us and the children. Our offering to God had been accepted. The next morning, William arrived home. He had been gone from us the full 15 months. To think of my great-great-grandmother Drusilla, the storms she weathered, supported by her faith and her dreams. Drusilla's story is each of our stories. The winds will continue to blow. But there is a God in heaven, and He will continue to provide.
We have been on a journey. We were going from all over the place. And wow, this is your great-great-grandmother. Great-great-grandmother. And I know you said that these things came from her journals.
She wrote a life history.
Can you come back up?
Oh, yes.
If you're going to answer, we need to hear everybody. Okay.
She wrote a life history. I'm trying to think how old she was. I will get it wrong. She wrote a life history, and she put all this down, but she had written, but this was a history that she gave to herself.
And that's what I just want you to just stay up here, stay up here. Let's give a round of applause. Now, because of all of this, I'm wondering if you could just for a couple questions about how you put it together or what you learned the most from that experience. Maybe you want to say a few things about the process, and then maybe a couple people with some questions on that. And if you're streaming, hey, type it real quick, and maybe I can squeeze it in. So.
Okay, well, I had read her story and was really, really taken by her story, as I told you. In the year 2000, there was a contest in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they were calling for musicals. And so my brother said, "Karla, you need to write a musical of Drusilla's life." And I thought, "Oh, not right." But I wrote some scenes, and then I had a cousin from Arizona, Leanne Horde, who called me up one day. She says, "You've written a musical about Drusilla." I said, "What? How do you know that?" And anyway, it was amazing. She found out that I had written it, and then she said to me, "You need to write a musical about her life." So I got a team of a fantastic choreographer, as a musicographer, and we actually did a musical of Drusilla's story, which was done in the Church Conference Center and in the at UVU, BYU, places, and we did it with full cast, with lots of. This choreographer was amazing. When Drusilla, I was a narrator. But then we had scenes enacted and choreography as I was telling the story. And one of the things that I remember so well is when Drusilla says everything was in mourning. Oh my gosh, Kim did this fantastic mourning dance. It was just amazing. Anyway, so that happened, and we did it a couple more times, and then I started thinking about her story. I mean, that was a long time ago, these actors and actresses. You know, it just wasn't feasible to do the full show. So I said, what about just sharing her story with people? Because it had made such a difference to me. I have to say, Monday night when I did this performance at Provo Pioneer Village, there was a woman who came up to me and she said, now I know I have to start writing in my journey. And I cried with her and I said, yes, we do, because our people are going to want to know what it was like for us in this world. Questions? Yes?
And just, you know, when you ask the question, because it may not be picked up and so that everyone can hear it, if you could repeat the question or answer it with that in there.
If I can.
Okay, we'll do our best.
You may have to.
Okay, I might be an interpreter. Okay, we'll see.
You might have to.
Yes. So what's your question?
When you have children, or do you have children, you should continue the generation of them writing to journals. So if there is a new generation of high tech, maybe people don't have the words and they can make mediums.
Okay, you want the specific question?
So she was making more of a comment. So this is a wonderful 11-year-old girl, and she is saying that, hey, if you have kids or grandkids, are you telling them about journals, and are you actually saying those things? So here you go.
Yes, I bought them each for Christmas this last year. This fantastic book by Randall Wright about writing your stories, not only for your kids, but to make your own life meaningful. So each one of them got those books for Christmas, and I'm hoping that they will write their stories, yeah.
But it looks like, did I not hear it all right? Because I'm trying to hear it from here too.
Can I come up with?
You want to come up? Okay, real quick. Go, shoot. And then while she's doing that, we have another question?
Yes.
Yes.
For the generation on the opposite direction, you say you read her story, but did your parents or grandparents, did they tell you about her story as you were growing up?
Not a word.
Oh, so the question, in case those on streaming don't hear it, so the other side of if your parents and grandparents were good about journals, and no, shared the stories
Yeah.
about.
No. My parents, my grandparents died when I was really, really young. But no, my mother did not tell me. Well, this was on my father's side. I guess my mother did tell me stories about her brothers. She had 8 brothers and 2 sisters. So she did tell me stories about her brothers, yeah.
All right, and you said you wanted to come up real quick, and because I wasn't interpreting it at the best. Okay, come on up. All right.
Okay, so if you have children or grandchildren, when you grow old, you should tell them to tell their children, and then the generations. You should tell them that they should write in journals. So if there's high-tech quality people in generations to come, maybe they could write. Maybe they could find out, so they could try to tell people how it was hard for people and how expensive things were.
See, now we have the full thing, the full.
100% yes. 100% yes. We need to tell, we need to write so that generations can read our stories. Sometimes we think, well, our story, I don't do anything, I just go to the store and whatever. But they want to know about our feelings, how we felt about things. They want to know the price of things. When I look at the price of Arctic hamburgers, when I was growing up, it was 19 cents. You know, that's kind of interesting.
All right, so we have a question? Yes.
So how old were you when you discovered Drusilla and read about her?
How old when you discovered Drusilla?
I was in my 40s. It's a long time before I even knew anything about her.
All right. Do you see any questions from the streamers?
Can I scroll down?
No, I'll take care of that. All right.
Well, there's only there's no questions. There's only
Just bravas and stuff. Okay, that works. Any other questions? Just want to double check? Yes.
Where will you be Saturday?
Where will you be Saturday, which is Saturday, August?
Are we related?
No.
maybe.
Saturday, we are going to Richmond, where they lived. They settled in the Salt Lake Valley, and they actually started, you know where the Warm Springs baths are in Salt Lake? They actually started that and were in charge of that. Drusilla basically was in charge of that. But then they moved to Richmond, and Saturday I'll be at a Hendricks family reunion, the big, you know, the generational extended family. Yeah, we'll be together with those people, and we are really excited to be there with them.
Wait, so are you going there on Saturday?
No, what are you going to do at 11:30?
Oh, at 11:30. This is a very specific question. On Saturday, August 2nd at 11:30 a.m.
Well, this is really interesting because the Hendricks family had asked me to do this story of Drusilla, so I will be doing that story at 11:30. But then the Pioneer Village asked me, "Do you have anything that you could do like this time?" And I went, "Yeah, I do." And then Rachel asked me, "Do you think you'd have anything to do?" "Yeah, I do." Because I really love sharing Drusilla's story because it really continues to help me. A lot of times they say, "Karla, hold on, the Lord will provide." I've been thinking about using that as one of my passwords. Maybe I will.
I recommend not using that, not especially since we streamed that. So just, rethink that, pray about it. I don't know. But with that, I just thought it's fun to hear these things, but isn't it great to be able to explore and just ask a few questions? Those who are in person, obviously you can continue to ask questions. And of course, we have our refreshments. Those who are streaming, don't worry. I'm sure there's something in your fridge. Or maybe there'll be someone who, carry a bag of meal and they'll say, "Would you like some?"
For 2 weeks.
Or for 2 weeks, or maybe pork. Maybe someone will just go outside, see if someone will come by and no matter what, we will enjoy, so you need to enjoy too. You promise? I hope so. Yeah. Now, this is the 93rd house concert. We will eventually have it all figured out with the 94th house concert. And then on top of that, we are, like I said, in the middle of our mid-year campaign. We are encouraging people to think monthly, like a $5 a month or more. That really makes a big difference. Oh, you said...
There's a comment that one of the live streamers just asked.
Wait, okay.
It is, what was the book that you bought for your grandkids to write in?
Oh, so someone online was asking, what was the book
was
that you
Sarah
bought to have them write in?
The author's name is Richard Wright. Randall Wright. Oh, did I say Richard? I'm so sorry. Randall Wright. And it's meaning, okay, I'll find it.
Okay, it will be found. And that, just so you know, Wright is the WRIGHT version. And Randall, is that with 2 L's or 1?
1 L.
1 L. So Randall, RANDEL, and then A-L. Oh gosh, I should not be spelling them. RANDAL, and then WRIGHT. So right now, she's looking it up. But maybe someone out here will beat her to it. Who knows? This is quite the suspense. Can you just feel it, the thickness in the air? We know the answer is...
He's written a lot of books.
Yeah! He has written a lot of books. This is why this is quite the contest right now. Who's going to find it? Who's going to find it? And I can tell people are going to be close. Yes, maybe.
Yeah!
We're still searching.
I already searched it. She's searching it on
Yes,
the phone.
I can tell it's being searched. Did you find it? No?
Make every day meaningful.
Yes.
Oh, it's been found! Ding, ding, ding! The winner here
It's Jeff Driss.
is Jeff. Yes, everybody, Jeff is the winner here. Make every day meaningful. Realize, record, and remember life's grand lessons. Wow. Okay. So what I'm going to do is another round of applause. We're going to have refreshments. Enjoy, mingle, mingle. Remember storycrossroads.org/donate. And remember just the amazingness of Karla Huntsman. For those streaming, I will type in that title in the comments there. But otherwise, hurrah, everybody! Big grand last hurrah!
Yeah.
Casey, can you guide them on this?
We have food.
Okay, my peeps.
Very quiet.
I have one every day.
Is it online? Like on family?
I'm sure it's not.
See, you were smart enough to know how to put it together. To make it, to make audio, you know? That scene with the Italian, it's like, we use that with our battalion thing where, you know, oh my gosh.
I mean,
She roams the